Hi everyone, welcome to a bonus tiny experiments video. So this week I was dabbling around with Ollama again, and I've already done a video and it's queued for release sort of week after I recorded it. And I set up to do my usual recording of my other content, and then I realized or found out that OpenAI had just released their open weights model, this gpt-oss-20 billion parameter, and there's a 120 billion parameter, and they were actually up on Ollama. So I figured I'd just record a video and put it out there pretty much when I recorded it, so it's nice and up to date for anybody that's thinking about playing around with these. And all this is, it's a very quick and dirty test template that I was going to use to play around with the model and sort of A/B it in some way with other models in Ollama. This has been very hastily put together, I add, a sort of combination of vibe coding with a bit of tweaking, with a bit more vibe coding, and then quite a bit of hacking to get things moderately okay. This is probably being released a lot sooner than I usually would, but I realise this model is pretty time sensitive, and so this might save people from reinventing the wheel a little bit. A very simple template for testing here. We've just got a function that defines a run experiment. So it takes the client, which is going to be created further down, somewhere down the bottom, I think. Where is it? There we go. Yeah. So we're creating this client object. So it takes that object in as part of the one of the arguments, the model, any messages that are going in, the description of the experiment, and then a file handle, basically. And the file handle just is there because it's writing the messages that are coming out both to the screen and to the to an MD file, which is appropriately named. So it's just happening all the time in real time, just appending this MD file. So you end up with an MD file at the end. Then there's just a very simple run all experiments function, which has all the experiments like packed into it. In a couple of instances, the chat method, the .chat method, is used out separately from the function. It's a bit further down it does that, but basically here we've got, for the first experiment, there's actually 3 different outputs because we're experimenting with there's a reasoning feature in the model, and it does this sort of, there's this functionality where you send it through the system prompt, reasoning low, reasoning medium, reasoning high. Now I'll include a link to the model card, whatever they're calling it. They call it a model card, yeah, not a system card but a model card. So I'll include a link to that so you can sort of do that. I haven't done anything specifically with tools. There was a thing in here that attempted to play around with functions, but it didn't work very well, so I pulled it out, replaced it with something else. So we've got a bit of code generation, prompting going on for sort of a well-known programming language and then a less well-known one, a multilingual translation, creative writing and style transfer. So very quick and dirty. It's basically, most of the time, it's sort of either hard coding the bit, this bit here, the JSON component that's going to go in for the request. It's either hard coding that in, or it's putting in a variable and then loading it up where there might be a slightly more complicated thing going on. So yeah, I'm not quite sure why this one decided to do it slightly different, but never mind. Yeah, so most of the other ones, it's loading them up beforehand, so you can modify all of that if you want to, or clean it up a bit so it does it a bit more consistently. Like I said, I'm releasing this a lot sooner than I normally would. I'd clean this up a little bit more, make it work a little bit more consistently in each of its experiments. So yeah, just go down, do all the experiments as I've said. Now and again, where it needs to, if it's a complicated interaction going on, like maybe like a couple of chat prompts one after the other that are connected, then it will do its own thing instead of using the function. But again, it's leaning into the Ollama library anyway. And we get back to code debugging, explanation, multi-part instruction following. What else we got? Long content question answering, counterfactual reasoning, data extraction from unstructured data, code refactoring, code switching translation. That's where a speaker might switch between two different languages, alternating between languages in the context of a single conversational situation. So it goes from I need to go to the store in English to something, was it to buy bread and milk in Spanish, I think, yeah. So yeah, switches between the two there. Creating a persona-based response, the sort of classic when you're doing it. This is the system role method in Ollama. Creating writing with constraints, and then abstract visual description. I was planning on doing a section to do with like safety test type questions, but I decided to sort of quit while I was ahead, because I was having one or two problems with formatting and various other things. So I thought I'd just do this and get this out as a first pass. Like I said, it does lean into the Ollama library. So when you do this in Python, you will need to install the Ollama library to do that. So for this, to run all this, the usual stuff when I'm doing Ollama. So you'll need Ollama installed. I need to update this. It just downloaded some stuff a moment ago actually. Yeah, so Ollama, Python, the library, some sort of IDE, boom. Now I'm not going to run this now because on my machine this takes quite a while to run. However, I did run one earlier. This is the sort of output you get because it's just pumping out very crudely, dumping it into a .md file, but you get the idea. You could probably clean up the sections a bit. There was a section in here, but it wasn't behaving itself, and it was interacting interestingly with some of the stuff that was coming off from the responses. So I took it out while I sort of worked that out. But it seems to be behaving itself now, so I'm gonna again quit while I'm ahead for the moment, because there's some other stuff that I want to work on. But that's what you're going to get come out. But I thought what I would do for a bit of fun, because of the way this is designed, it doesn't just use that model, it can switch between different models fairly quickly. And how it does that is when it first prompts you, it just gives you a list of available models, and then you can choose one. Now I obviously don't want to run it again. Took about, on my laptop, it took about 3 hours I think to go crank through everything. On the desktop, probably about an hour and a bit. But what I did since then for testing purposes and formatting purposes is I re-downloaded one of the smallest Gwen 2.5 model, which is sort of 0.5 billion parameters. It's been heavily, what do they call it, quantized, I think, however they got down to that size. So yeah, let's run that now, just so you can sort of see what happens in reasonable real time with a very small model. So there we go. So running experiments, creates the MD file, and it'll just crank through on this. Now, of course, how Gwen 2.5 handles being told to do mid, low or high reasoning through the system prompt is another matter, but it's not going to crash because it's coming in through the system prompt. It will just take it like it does anything, and I suppose try and do something with it. In fact, it's interesting. Yeah, it's a bit over the map, isn't it, in terms of how it tries to do this. So we've got experiment 4, code generation. The carbon one's going to be interesting. In fact, you can see the for this model, it's a small model, so it's all over the map. It looks like it's pumping out JSON there. Sorry, JSON, pumping out Java for some reason. Yeah. And maybe if I was a little bit more specific, let's say carbon programming language. But as we saw for the a quick look at the OSS one, GPT-OSS seemed to do a better job. But again, that's something you'd have to evaluate and see how well. Oh, they've got multilingual translation. An experiment. It's not. It's also one thing. It's not saving the original prompt back into the file. This is just literally dumping in the stuff as they come back, as it comes back from the response. Like I said, it's a pretty quick and dirty test rig. Text summarization. I'm sure you could do something cleverer by setting up a I don't know, a dictionary and with all the tests in it, and then using it to dispatch different functions based on whether it's a simple experiment or whether it's like a multimodal thing going on. Health related queries. So you get the idea, but again, remember here we are just using the very small model just to run the testing, just so I can make sure the formatting's okay. But as I pointed out earlier, I did a test on the OSS model. Obviously you're going to need to download that if you don't already have it. As part of Ollama, you've got to pull it. I'm running a 16 gig machine. This is an i7, Core i7. It's an old, I don't know, ProDesk HP I'm running on, which in previous videos I have brought up the spec for before. I haven't got it in front of me unfortunately at the moment. But yeah, it's nothing spectacular, but it will run it. Don't try and run the 20b model on that sort of spec machine. And then you go. So for the small models, it'll crank through pretty quickly. But for these ones, this is probably the largest model I've tried to run on this machine. I generally try not to run anything over about 7 to 10 billion parameters. So you can see so this is the different ones here. So this is the one we just ran, and then this was the one I ran earlier for OSS. It's interesting the formatting here. It's got some interesting table stuff that it's kicking out, which is pretty cool. I didn't create this, it did, so that's pretty interesting. So that's obviously worth a further look. I don't know how I'm going to test the carbon stuff. I don't have the hopefully there's an online REPL for that somewhere that I could test Google Carbon, but I deliberately picked a very recent, relatively recent programming language. It's doing some interesting things here, which I just need to look into further, find out what it's trying to achieve. Looks like it's putting in some sort of formatting or markup there, but doesn't seem to work too well in a .md file, so we'll see. And I need to work with that. But anyway, I just thought I'd stick this out there so people can play around with it, and that way it's not interrupting other stuff I want to work on, and I've just put it out there, and I don't really have to worry about it for a while. So thanks once again for watching. Bye for now, and I will catch you in a future video.